Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Opposition renews calls for government to cushion price increase crisis. Colleagues of veteran broadcaster Francois Juste react to news of his passing. And later in sports, Jamaica Cricket Association concerned with frequent changes of Scorpions head coach. I'm Herman Green. Here are the details. The opposition is again calling for the government to cushion the crisis of increasing prices on the Jamaican people. It comes as the party on Sunday re-elected Denise Daly as the Region 4 chairperson. O'Shane Masters has the details.
In a letter to the annual regional conference in St. Catherine on Sunday, PNP President Mark Golding says the government should slow the pace of debt reduction this fiscal year and allocate at least 2% of gross domestic product GDP to, among other things, increase NIS benefits, PATH benefits, poor relief benefits, and subsidies on fertilizer and other agricultural inputs for small farmers. Mr. Golding further noted that motorists, transport operators, and electricity consumers should also be given a break by capping the ad valorem fuel tax at the budgeted oil price of US $67.50 per barrel and remove the oil hedge tax, which he says the government has, quote, misappropriated from its original purpose of protecting Jamaicans from high fuel prices, end quote. Now, this follows a slew of other criticisms from other members of the opposition, to include the Public Sector Compensation Review Program.
As you know, public sector wage matters does not affect only those that are directly employed, but also the families of those who are directly employed. And a prolonging of that process, and more so in a manner that is not transparent, because the members are not aware of the full offering of the government to replace.
Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern, Fitz Jackson, also chastised the government for the way in which a teacher migration crisis is being dealt with. He says with a number of teachers leaving for lucrative jobs overseas and the learning loss which has taken place due to the COVID-19 crisis, it will be a challenge in the classrooms come September.
Less teachers and less trained, experienced, qualified teachers, that task is even more overwhelming. And therefore we are calling on the government to attend to the matter with some sense of urgency, because the task ahead is indeed enormous.
And we also need to look seriously on the human capital that we have in this country. They are going to waste. We are having a lot of brain drain. We are losing our good citizens because we are not able to attract them to stay in the country. And I'm therefore appealing to the government for us to put things in place so that we will not lose any more of our teachers, nurses, our professionals, and our tradesmen.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Clarendon Southwestern, Lothan Cousins, has received support from MP Fitz Jackson regarding his comments on classism and racism in Jamaica. At a political rally earlier this month, Mr. Cousins reasoned that black Jamaicans could only depend on the PNP, as the JLP-led administration was only looking out for the business class, which in turn is supporting the administration. Mr. Jackson says the issue has been prevalent in Jamaica for decades.
While there have been improvements, it is a fact that many residue of class prejudice, race prejudice exists. And for any one of us as Member of Parliament to pretend that it doesn't exist, we will be hypocritical, and it will be a disservice to the people who we represent and indeed to the country on a whole. I think that the comments of the Member of Parliament was well in context, and I believe that when honesty prevails in our assessment of what he has said, history will judge him fairly.
Now, PNP President Mark Golding, at a divisional conference on Sunday, said the PNP is an inclusive party that welcomes all classes. The Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries is boosting its commitment to the local agriculture industry with the acquisition of 2 backhoes. The heavy-duty equipment, which were handed over to the Rural Agricultural Development Authority rather recently, are expected to aid farmers in Westmoreland and St. Thomas. Sandy Williams tells us more.
The agriculture sector has been grappling with a range of challenges, including poor farm roads. It's one of the reasons the Agriculture Ministry has donated 2 backhoes to the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA. The excavating equipment, which cost approximately $38.7 million, feature 4-wheel drive, an air-conditioned operator station, and are at an operating weight of 8,425 kilograms. Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries Colonel Charles Jr. reasons the heavy-duty equipment could help boost the government's National Farm Road Rehabilitation Program, as well as the Production and Productivity Incentive Program. While noting that food security is important, Mr. Charles Jr. explains that acquiring the equipment is targeted at development of the agriculture sector.
Getting the tractors is not just another piece of equipment. When you look on all of the variables that we need to consider in order to achieve higher production, in order to achieve sustainability, in order to achieve ultimately food security, this equipment is critical to us doing all of the things that are necessary to give the farmers a chance to be able to do what they do best.
The backhoes will be used to assist with farm road rehabilitation, responding to emergencies and natural disasters for land management, for crop and livestock, as well as drought mitigation, among other major projects.
And they're not only going to be used to clean drains and block roads, but also to dig and escalate drains for irrigation pipes, to assist in the removal of large boulders or stone heaps, create dams, fish ponds and other storage catchments, as well as land clearing activities.
The Agriculture Minister adds that there would be a fee structure in place for the use of the backhoes. The 2 pieces of equipment are earmarked for use in St. Thomas and Westmoreland. Mr. Charles Jr. is hoping farmers will take advantage of the new equipment.
The benefits to be gained from the use of the backhoes will seek to expand and improve how production takes place within the parishes based on the need for us to do what? Grow and eat. To ensure the sustainability of the program, it is expected that stakeholders will access the services under a fee structure, which has been established to ensure cost recovery and efficient use of the equipment.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
Labour Minister Karl Samuda is standing firm on his position that he has not received any evidence of Jamaican farm workers being mistreated and forced to work in deplorable conditions on farms in Canada. Sandy Williams tells us more.
The Labour Minister has been receiving heavy criticisms from some farm workers and Labour advocates after he rejected allegations last week that Jamaican farm workers are being mistreated and forced to work in deplorable conditions. But in an interview with our news centre last evening, Mr. Samuda accused the media of seeking to create mischief in its reporting on the situation at the farms.
Based on what I saw on my visit to Canada, the allegations of ill treatment and poor conditions at this stage, and this is based on my actual observations and discussions with the workers. I never went there as a sightseer or somebody just casually interacting. On every occasion on my visit, I met and spoke with the workers of each farm. And I spoke directly to them, and I'm saying that based on what I have observed and my interaction, the criticisms of the program are grossly exaggerated. Grossly, not in any casual way, grossly over-exaggerated.
According to Mr. Samuda, some farm workers have expressed concerns about the future of the program due to the negative publicity.
And we have liaison services throughout the country, both United States and Canada. To say any less would be unfair to the program and would be unfair to the workers. I had workers who I spoke with that asked me, please do not cause any damage to be done to these farmers. Jamaican workers, farmers, not media personalities, farmers, along in the presence of workers. And the workers said to us, don't do anything that would cause any disruption of this program.
According to reports out of Canada, the workers who are employed through the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program have complained about working long hours, verbal abuse and intimidation, and poor living conditions, including rats eating their food at 2 farms in the Niagara region. Minister Samuda recently visited several farms in that country. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And for a look at the economy, here's Cody Barrett with the Business Minute.
In the world of business, Audrey Hinchcliffe's Manpower Group wants to start awarding first degrees by 2026. The cleaning and maintenance company's training arm, the Institute for Worker Education and Development, is now recognized as a higher education institution. This is the first step in a 4-year process that will see the Training Institute move from granting certificates and diplomas to offering the certification in specialized lines for small businesses and customer service-oriented businesses. ITEL BPO is trying to fill 1,500 posts in the coming weeks. The business process outsourcing company says the recruits will be distributed amongst its Kingston and Montego Bay operations. The drive to fill these posts comes after the company opened a 90,000 square foot facility at its Chalmers site in Kingston. ITEL says the need for more agents is driven by the great shortage of labor, especially across the U.S., where a number of the company's clients are based. Therefore, new and existing partners are utilizing nearshore outsourcing services to fill these gaps. That's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Barrett.
Thanks, Cody. And it's now time for regional and international news with Sandy Williams.
In the region, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union ECCU says it will take the Trinidad and Tobago government to the Caribbean Court of Justice CCJ regarding the non-payment of millions of US dollars linked to the collapse of Trinidad-based insurance companies CLICO and British American insurance company Baco in 2009. Chairman of the ECCU Subcommittee on Insurance, Gaston Brown, said the decision to take the Keith Rowley administration before the Port of Spain-based CCJ was taken over the weekend. On the international scene, it's a moment nearly 5 years in the making. Now all systems are a-go as NASA finalizes preparations for the launch of Artemis 1. The rocket was set to take off this morning on an unmanned mission beyond the moon, but the launch team reported an issue with one of the rocket's 4 engines. It happened when hydrogen was run through the engines to prepare for launch. The next launch opportunity is on September 2nd, but that will depend on how testing goes. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
Veteran broadcaster Francois Juste died this morning. Up to his death, he worked at Radio Jamaica as co-host with Paula and Porter Jones on the morning program Sunny Side Up. In its breaking news update during the show, Radio Jamaica said Juste was battling an illness and passed away at the University Hospital of the West Indies. We heard reactions from his colleagues.
Dubbed Fame Prince, then on to General Manager of Hits, Fame and Radio Jamaica, Francois Juste is the veteran broadcaster credited for the introduction and training of several of our favorite TV and radio personalities we know today.
Decent, calm person who, when there's trouble, Francois is the one who will come in and calm the seas, put it that way.
Blindsided is the word. And so for all of us here, you see members of staff literally in tears. I mean, really difficult. So you're hearing on radio, but the backstory is that we really are putting out our best. Because Francois, apart from his stellar contribution, was Francois. And so that genuine, open, warm person that Jamaicans have come to know, that's Francois.
When our news team visited the radio department, this was the scene. Somber, as colleagues took a moment to gather themselves, reflect on memories shared, and come to terms with the reality that holding back the tears was not so easy for others. But his co-host, Paula Ann Porter-Jones, was left to man the fort today, all while dealing with the loss.
I think Francois' passing has rocked the nation, not just in broadcasting or entertainment where he worked, but across different spheres of Jamaican life because of what he did for us and because of how he connected with us through his show. So I think that it definitely was an earthquake today.
As we continue to remember the life of Francois and Juste and his many contributions to the RGR Gleaner Communications Group and the local media industry, we will have more reactions this evening in Primetime News. Cody Ann Barrett for TVJ News.
All right, thanks, Renata. Renata, the entire team is really grieving Francois passing. I understand you guys used to have a nice banter in the mornings.
Yeah, the banter in the morning when I do morning sports, persons look forward to it. I go on the street and persons always ask, oh, it's you. So they don't know me doing sports. It's you and Francois always in the morning.
Right.
And persons miss that, and I will certainly miss that and miss Francois.
Yes, I'll miss it too. Well, that's it for the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.